Yesterday I was on the phone with this client, and she has moved from Sydney to Adelaide just because Sydney was too expensive for her and her partner and planning a future. And they were thinking about buying their first property together as a couple in Australia. And they were making it about where they would both live and they could afford. And when we were chatting yesterday, I was making it clear that everyone's different, and I'm not in the business of convincing people of what they should or should not do. We're all different, and at the end of the day, it's their investment or their own home. But what I wanted to make clear is the single reason why they decided to move to Adelaide is to purchase let's call it cheaper property. And they were looking at the 550K purchase price. And when I mentioned I had bought a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, double car garage, close to a train station in Melbourne for 450, and not that I'm saying that you should spend less or more, but just to make it comparable, they were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And the discussion then went on towards what has more potential of growing in the medium to long term, not in the next year, right? If we're comparing Adelaide, which I do consider a bit more regional, with Melbourne, no one can predict the future, but I honestly believe Melbourne has a lot more potential of growth, simply because I know it will get a lot more demand for it and land is a lot more locked.
It's interesting you say all of this, Tiffy, right? And people are tempted now. They're tempted to go and buy regional. And I had a cousin of mine that went and bought in Gunnedah, and people are tempted by cheap. And they think that you need to travel far outside of the major metropolitan hubs for cheap. And I suppose the most recent CoreLogic data has shown that regional centers have performed or outperformed the hubs. And let's have a look here. Regional New South Wales average, the total return was 28% or 23% growth. That's huge. These are really, really big numbers. In regional Victoria, 17%, in regional Queensland, 19%. These are big growth numbers, which have outperformed the cities. Let's be clear on this as well. I don't think it's going to be like this forever. Now, what I anticipate we will see is as the borders, as things normalize again, people like myself that are having little holidays in regional centers and getting outside of the city will come back into the city, and things will go back to a more normalized, whatever that means, normalized return. And as people come back into the cities, as we say it over and over and over again, tourism, students, and migrants, particularly migrants, come back into the country, we're going to see tremendous growth in the metropolitan hubs. There are 150 to 200,000 migrants that haven't been coming into the country, and they will eventually come back in, and they demand a specific style of real estate, more akin to what you've purchased in the city sort of fringe of Melbourne, 45 minutes or 35 to 45 minutes out, then going to Adelaide.
And when we talk about generalizing, even when we look at these reports, right, we were looking at the data. And yes, we talk about regional has grown this or that. But even when we talk about different types of real estate, as if we're talking residential, industrial, or commercial, within residential, you have different tiers, and you have like the more affordable and the higher price points, right? And one of the things we were looking at that report is what has been driving, or which tiers of property have been driving the price increase. And what's amazing is that the regional areas probably have been growing the most on that lower end. So everyone going into that affordability and making it not that affordable anymore. Whereas in the big cities, you still have access to the more affordable range, because actually the surprising part, for instance, in Melbourne or Sydney, is that what has grown the most in value is that upper end of the market.